Hello, I'm Mary Jean Gallagher, a member of the Rotary Club of Windsor-Roseland, and we're here in the LaSalle Woods. It's actually a piece of property that illustrates the power of Rotary. More than 20 years ago, our small Rotary Club made a commitment with the Essex Region Conservation Authority to purchase this land and preserve it from development. And now, more than 2 decades later, our community has a natural oasis in the middle of an urban environment. That's the power of Rotary in our neighborhoods and all around the world. And it's why I'm so pleased to have an opportunity to speak to you today about leadership in Rotary and elsewhere. Rotary leaders are my heroes. And so today I want to share with you a few reflections on leadership. But before that, I want to tell a story. Back a few years ago, I found myself participating in a national immunization day against polio in India. There I was, sitting on a plastic chair in a narrow cobbled alleyway in a remote village in northern India, surrounded by a sea of children. And as I was vaccinating them, suddenly the sea of kids parted and a tractor pulled up. And it stopped and they watched us for a while. Seated on the tractor was a family, a mom and dad and several children. And in a moment, they picked up this bundle of bright green silk and passed it to the kids nearest the tractor. It got handed by hand over the heads of the children until suddenly it was in my arms. And as I opened up the silk, I looked down on a beautiful 3-month baby girl. And as I gave her the drops, I was incredibly moved. I looked down at her and said, "Darling, you will not remember me, and you may not remember Rotary today, but you will dance at your wedding because you met us both." And with tears in my eyes, I handed the little green bundle back and over the heads of all the children until it reached the tractor and the tractor pulled away. Who gets to do that? And how was I so lucky as to be able to be in that place providing that service? Rotary leadership matters because Rotarians create hope in the world. It's pretty important. These stories illustrate my why. It's why I spend the time and talent and treasury that I do and invest it in Rotary, in extending my reach and connection to make a difference in the world. As you move into more leadership roles in Rotary, you'll have an opportunity to develop more leaders around you. And with that in mind, I want to offer you 5 reflections on leadership as we go forward. Reflection number 1, start with the why. Simon Sinek, in his book, as a result of his research, identified that as one of the best and most important things you can do to inspire the people around you to take up the work. And so what he says is you start always reminding people and sharing with them why we're doing this thing that we're doing. As you inspire yourself and become more engaged by knowing your own why, you will also inspire the people around you, and they will come to support you. And together, that inspiration will turn into a power to change the world around you that is unprecedented. Step 2, communicate. Communicate early, often, and in a variety of ways. Knowing your story is important, but sharing it is important as well. It's how you bring those members of your group to the task to work together. Starting a meeting, for instance, with a brief anecdote or a comment that reminds everyone of why we're so fortunate to be involved in this great organization is a good way to lead into a very productive and collaborative meeting. People are reminded of what really matters in the work that they do. And when you're sharing information, share it widely with everyone. It's really important that they all feel part of the group and they all understand that they belong and have a role to play. It ends up with more people leaning in and being more enthusiastic about the work they're doing, and also being able to contribute well because there's clarity about what's going on. Reflection number 3, think about balanced leadership. And by that I mean the following. When we lead, we really have 2 areas to think about. One is accomplishing the task or the project that we set out to do. The second one, though, is even more important. It's developing the people. When we lead, we accomplish tasks, but great leaders actually enable and engage other people in accomplishing the task, so they can be inspired and feel good and know they belong in a worthwhile way. Often we get so busy working on the tasks that we forget about the impact we have on the people who work with us. And that impact matters. We may have people in Rotary around us whose why is about learning leadership skills. When we do the work or we just drive at the task, when we don't take the time to find out what the people around us are wanting to gain from their involvement, then we miss the opportunity to develop the talents of the people around us. The mark of a great leader is building leadership behind them. And for the future of Rotary, that may be the most important aspect of what you do. Tip number 4 is for the women leaders in the room. As women, we've been socialized for centuries not to draw attention to ourselves and not to create conflict in a group. And what that turns into today is that women tend to end their statements on an upbeat, as if it's a question. And when we do that, we undermine our own effectiveness as a leader. What happens is that people don't give us the respect that we may in fact deserve. And they don't listen as carefully to our ideas because they don't have the confidence behind them. So we need to learn, as we speak, to make sure that our statements are statements. I think we should change the date of the event in order to be successful, rather than, I think we should change the date of the event. There's a difference there, and it speaks to how we ensure that our leadership has enough attention and enough sincerity, enough authority to actually have people listen to our ideas. My 5th point as advice for you is to understand that it's more important to be right at the end of a meeting than at the beginning. And what I mean by that is that if you're chairing a meeting and you start out by sharing your vision and putting your answer forward, then you automatically limit the conversation around the table. You reduce the number of good ideas that come, because people aren't going to contribute something if they think you've already decided how something's supposed to be. So it's really important when you're chairing a meeting that you control the amount you talk, particularly at the beginning of the meeting. Get people to contribute. Have them tell you what's happening with their ideas, what they think should happen. Then at the end of the meeting, you get a chance to summarize. You say, well, we're going to go in this particular direction. I was mindful of what this person said, and I think we can accommodate the concerns that a couple of you raised if we do A, B, and C. It allows the group to lean in because the project and the idea is influenced by their thoughts and their contributions. It will increase the likelihood that they'll come back to the next meeting because they were an important voice in the room, particularly if you've made a point of engaging all of them. If someone's quiet in the meeting, ask them, so I noticed, Sam, you've been quiet. What are your thoughts here? If you do that, you increase the enthusiasm and commitment by everyone to the project that you're working on. As we wrap up, I wish you well on your leadership journey and your training. The work that you do and your effectiveness as a leader is going to have a huge impact on the world. We have the power in Rotary to change everything around us. And as you do that, and as you leave, I'm going to offer you this next challenge. You're going to go through some pretty extensive and important training in the next while. And when you do, what is going to change as a result of your training? How are you going to use that training to be more effective in your leadership? as we work together to create hope in the world. Thank you.